Hi, it's Mark and welcome back to No Book Left Behind, and this is my January 2026 TBR video. Hi and welcome to the new year, although you've already had my December reading roundup video, so perhaps that's a bit late. Like this video. Yep, it is a few days late, but there are quite a few videos to do this time of year, and I didn't plan it very well because this is the first time I've done it, so sorry about that. But we're here now, so let's do my January TBR. Now, if you've been watching the channel, you'll know that I've got a massive TBR of 243 books. Which is ridiculous, and I must do something about it. So my resolution this year, well, let's not call it a New Year's resolution because I never keep those. Let's just call it a plan, a project. My project this year is to read what I own and to get that TBR figure down to something at least vaguely reasonable. And to do that, I've decided to read 100 books off that TBR before I'm allowed to buy any more new books. Now, considering that I only read, I think it was 6 books last month, and I think about 8 the month before that, it's looking like a long-term project, but I'm going to do my best and see if I can read more this year. So this time, for this month, I've picked 10 books to read, and I'm going to do my damnedest to read all 10, and maybe get in some extra ones too, although I think that's a bit unlikely. But anyway, let's see what books I've picked. That's what we're here to do, so let's get on with it. And first up is one of the books that are featured in my Lazy Book Haul video from the end of last year. And that's Nathaniel Hawthorne's Twice Told Tales. Now, this is the most famous thing, well, no, arguably the most famous thing Hawthorne ever wrote, because obviously you've also got The Scarlet Letter and you've also got The House of the Seven Gables, which I read many years ago and which did not impress me in the least, which is why I never read anything else by him. Until reading one of the Tales of the Weird series from the British Library. It included a Hawthorne story called Rappaccini's Daughter, which I thought was brilliant, and that sent me back to have another go at Nathaniel Hawthorne. And Twice Told Tales seemed like the ideal place to start. So I'm going to be reading that one. There was a movie based on it in 1963 with Vincent Price. It was a horror compendium anthology movie, so yeah, I do expect some of these to be scary stories, but I don't think they all are. But we'll see. Looking forward to it. Next up, talking of scary stories, or scary stories even, we have my monthly entry from the British Library's Tales of the Weird series. I'm doing one of these a month because I review them. This is book number 7 in the series, and this is The Face in the Glass by Mary Elizabeth Braddon, which is another collection of eerie tales. Now, I know nothing about Mary Elizabeth Braddon at all. I've never read anything by her. I'm not even sure I'd ever heard the name before. So this is going to be new territory for me. I rely on the British Library's Tales of the Weird series being very solid and a very good series. So I'm sure it won't be poor. Whether it will be to my taste or not, we don't know. Well, we're going to find out, aren't we? So time for my first non-fiction pick of the month. And this one, well, if you follow the channel at all, you'll know that I'm a massive fan of the movies, particularly classic Hollywood of the 1930s and 40s. And I've got dozens of biographies and autobiographies, both read and unread, of actors and directors. So I thought I'd pick one for my TBR this month, and the one I've chosen is My Wicked Wicked Ways by Errol Flynn. And if you know anything about Mr. Flynn, you'll know he was a very naughty boy, apparently, in lots of ways. How honest he's going to be about all that in the book, I don't know, although it does suggest from the quotes that are written on the back that he's extremely honest indeed. So I am looking forward to that one and finding out a little bit more about him. Not that I have to confess I was ever a massive fan of his or his acting, but I still think the book's going to be quite fascinating. After that, let's go back to fiction now, and let's pick the next one in a series that I've been reading, but not recently. This is something I've been meaning to get around to for so long, but this is Jeffery Deaver's The Broken Window. I think this is probably about 15 years old now. something like that. This is the 7th, I believe, in the Lincoln Rhyme series about the detective. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of these. The first half dozen I pretty much read straight away after reading the first one, The Bone Collector, which is probably the most famous one. Yeah, I read them straight away. I loved them so much. And then I subsequently bought all the rest of them as time went by and never read any of them. And I don't really know why that is, but I didn't. So one of the things I really wanted to do this year, that was one of the reading projects I had in the back of my mind, was to read the remainder. I think there's another 6 or 7 now. I have them all unread. But yeah, this is the Broken Window, rather, the 7th one. So yes, I really do want to get around to this really desperately. So after that, let's shift through the books on the table here. I'm as well organised as usual. Let's pick out this one next. Yeah, I've lost track of how many I've picked out. Well, I'll just go through them all, and we'll just have to trust that it's 10. The next one is one I've partly read this actually. The John Burke Hammer Horror Omnibus. Last month I read The Curse of Frankenstein from here. There are basically 4 novelisations of Hammer horror films. You've got The Curse of Frankenstein, which I've covered already. You've got the sequel, The Revenge of Frankenstein. You've got The Gorgon, and you've got The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. And these are very, very short adaptations. In fact, they're not really full novels. And yeah, that is a bit of a weakness to them, I think, at least going by The Curse of Frankenstein. But anyway, I do want to read the rest of these. As you see, there is a bookmark in there already for the fact that I've already read one of them. But yeah, I want to get that one out the way. So moving on from that, let's do this one next. This is Catherine Storr's Marianne Dreams. Now this is a children's book, but let's not judge too harshly and too quickly. As a child, I saw and was very well creeped out by a TV show called Escape into Night, which I'd forgotten for years. In a sense, I didn't even remember what it was called. But it always stuck with me in my mind, and it was only in recent times I found out that it was based on a book, and this is that book. So I do want to give this a read. I've actually got the series to watch. I've actually managed to get a copy of it, so I'm sure it won't live up to my 7-year-old memories of it. Probably not very creepy. It'll probably look very corny and cheap, I would imagine. 1970s British children's television, not likely to be a big budget, really, is it? Not that that's essential if something's done well, but it'll probably look a bit, well, creaky. I don't know. Don't want to prejudge. Anyway, I do want to read the book. If you want a brief synopsis of the plot, basically, from what I remember of it, it's a young girl who's very sick, and she starts drawing while she's convalescing in bed, and the things she draws come true in her dreams. I think that's basically it. In the end, she's trapped in a house with a young boy while there's the creepy stones outside with eyes that seem to be advancing on the house. That's really all I remember about it. So I'm looking forward to reacquainting myself with both the show and the book. Next up, another bit of non-fiction for you. This is Set the Night on Fire by Robby Krieger. He was the guitarist with The Doors, one of my favourite psychedelic 60s rock bands. This is his autobiography, so I am looking forward to reading it. If you've seen my Books of the Year video for last year, you'll know that one of them was the biography of Jim Morrison, the singer, No One Here Gets Out Alive, which I really enjoyed a great deal. And now I get to read a different perspective of those events from someone who was an intrinsic part of them. The authors of No One Here Gets Out Alive were involved in what happened at the time, but they were not part of the band. They were more on the fringes to some extent. This is obviously a member of the band, so I'm looking forward to reading his insights and his memories of those times. Next up, we'll get back to the fiction and something that is going to be the subject of a video. For good or worse, I don't know. We'll see. This is The Mind of Mr. Soames. This is by Charles Eric Maine. This is a late 1960s novel, I believe, which was adapted by Amicus Films into one of their quartet of standalone science fiction movies. the last one they did, actually, in the late 60s, very early 70s. I've reviewed the other three. I've read the books and watched the films and reviewed them on the channel in videos. So I'm going to do this one as well. This is the last one, the end of the quartet, so to speak, although it was everything was unconnected. It wasn't any kind of official series. It was just 4 movies they did, 4 standalone separate films. I have good memories of the movie, not clear ones, but I do remember it being somewhat better than the other 3 Amicus movies I'm talking about, which were the Terranauts, They Came From Beyond Space, and Scream and Scream Again. I remember that movie of The Mind of Mr. Soames, which was the same title, being better than those 3 movies. So maybe the book's better. I don't know. But looking forward to it. We'll find out. So 2 to go, at least by looks of what remains on the pile here anyway. I should have been mentally counting these, but, as I've said before, I can't count. So, and if I was counting on my fingers, that'd be a bit embarrassing, wouldn't it? So... No, I'm not quite that bad. Okay, I think there are just these 2 left. If they're not, I'll have to refilm the video, and I don't want to do that, so better have one last check. Yeah, there are 2 left. Okay. The professional presentation. This is a strange manuscript found in a copper cylinder by James de Mille, which I picked up in November, which is an example of Lost World literature, and I'm reading a lot of Lost World literature and reviewing it for this channel. Unfortunately, I haven't found many good examples of it yet, I have to say. Most of them haven't been great, but here's one that is still in print, or was still in print in the early 2000s when this edition came out. So, yeah, I know absolutely nothing about this at all. So there you are. I can't really talk about it. So the last pick of the month is back to non-fiction and the world of the movies. And this time it's the world of the giallo. Now, if you don't know what a giallo is, the easiest way to describe it is to call it a slasher movie, but a whodunit at the same time. And these movies were massively popular in the 1960s in Italy through to the mid-1970s, when literally hundreds of these films were made. They're still made today to some extent, but not nearly as prolific as back then. Well, I wanted a guide to those. This was a few years ago, and I saw something recommended, which was this, Blood and Black Lace by Adrian Luther Smith. And so when it arrived, I was massively disappointed, because when you look at it, it's a big book until you turn it sideways and see that it's extremely slim. And I'm afraid I was prejudiced against this book because of its dimensions, basically. And at the same time, I discovered a series of books written by a guy called Troy Howarth called So Deadly, So Perverse. 3 volumes of them, in fact, which are a similar size to this, but pretty thick. And those ones have been my go-to reference for the giallo movies, which I was reviewing, or do review still, on my movie blog, which I think I'm up to about reviewing. I think I've reviewed over 120 of them up to now, because there were a lot of them. So I want to read this. I want to put my prejudices aside and forget about the size of the book and actually read it and see what I get out of it. So those are the 10 books I've selected this month. Hopefully I'm going to get around to reading them all. I'm going to try my best to do that, but we'll see how it goes. So that's it for today's video. Thank you very much for staying with me till the end. I do appreciate it. Have you read any of these books? What did you think of them? Have you got any books you'd like to recommend for me? Please pop those in the comments below. I mean, I won't be able to buy them for at least a year, possibly longer. But who knows, maybe I'll finish this Read What You Own challenge a bit quicker. I doubt it, but we live in hope. And I'm going to try my hardest to read these 10 books by the end of the month, if nothing else. And please don't forget to like, subscribe and ring that notification bell if you enjoy watching a middle-aged man waffle on about books, knowing that he's had to keep stopping to recharge his lights, and because he keeps flubbing his lines and having to do retakes. In the meanwhile, please keep searching through those second-hand bookshops and those charity bookshelves, because there are treasures out there that only you can find. Cheers. See you later.